Chad Meyer with the Midwest Motorsports Expo here at the Civic Center, Rochester, Minnesota, chatting with Karl Fredrickson, Speedway Illustrated. Welcome back to the Midwest. Every now and then we let you East Coasters come our direction. We're glad to have you here.
And I even had walleye for the first time yesterday. So,
really?
So I think I'm officially a part-time Midwesterner now. I loved it. It was great.
Yeah, well, your accent and northern Minnesota accent has to be pretty close, right?
I think so.
So, go ahead.
Great racers out here. It's such a privilege to come. Everybody really knows their stuff. You know, I get to travel around a little bit, but coming here and chatting with the folks who are walking these floors, they're all out in full force. It's just great to see people spending a Saturday this way in March.
Well, and you referenced the racer. You and I had a brief conversation last night as we were winding down from getting set up for the show. And the one thing we both talked about to each other was, why are we here?
Yeah.
And I want you to give the why are you here and why we all should be here and the support we need to provide for this industry to keep it sustainable.
It's a great question, Chad, and it's what we were talking about last night. Clearly, there are some superstars in this sport. We all know their names. But the most important guy is a guy whose name maybe you don't know and I don't know. So you come out here and you meet them and you find out what their challenges are, what they're enjoying about the sport, why they're in the sport, and maybe help them to go faster, be safer, and spend wiser. And you can do that by walking these halls. You don't do that by sitting at home. And you get to know the people who make these parts. And you get first-hand tutorials on how to use these components and get the most out of them. If you use them right, they'll last forever until we hit the wall. But outside of that, the parts are great today.
So, Karl, obviously we're here laser focused on talking to racers and promoting this industry. You're here with your magazine, Speedway Illustrated, and speaking of a laser focus, what I appreciate about your publication is what you kind of already mentioned, right? We'll talk about a superstar or two, but a lot of your content is about how to race, what do you say, wiser, smarter, maybe less money, and certainly safer.
Yep.
Explain the philosophy of the magazine and why people should subscribe.
Well, thank you, Chad. I appreciate that. It's a 24-year-old magazine. For 14 years, we've been employee-owned, run, and managed. We're print only. We're not online because our magazine is worth buying. That's the way we look at it. And only the best go in print, whether it's an advertiser or a racer. Now, the focus of the magazine is on everybody who races. And that means sometimes we write about somebody who's new to the sport because they're no less important than the biggest winner last year. You take a guy like Karl who wins everything, dirt, pavement, cup, dirt tracks, late model sprint cars. He's no more important than a guy who just ran his first hobby stock race. That's the attitude of this magazine. And we're here to serve all of them. And that's what we do. And we don't have a big parent company. So we only answer to the truth, and I'm proud of that.
I can't tell you, this has happened to me more than once. I'm reading an article in your magazine. It's like, I really wish I could hit the like button. Because you're like, I want people to not, but you're right. I mean,
yeah.
You want this content and this terrific content, subscribe to the magazine. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't cost a lot. It's going to help the racer and even a race fan understand the sport better.
Yeah, and that's sort of the goal. We do a lot of some NASCAR stuff so that the folks who are at home and only watching racing on television, they might get the idea that, hey, there's a short track in my neighborhood, and go to it. And maybe they'll go from the grandstands to the pit area, and maybe they'll start crewing on a car. Maybe they'll buy a race car for themselves. That's the focus of this magazine, to help people make that transition, because there's no better view than behind the steering wheel looking at a waving checkered flags.
Well, the one thing you and I could do, or at least I could keep asking questions all day, because there's a lot of stories that you've experienced a lot. We all have.
Yeah.
But we just appreciate you coming out from the East Coast to be right here in Rochester, Minnesota, this part of the Midwest. Thank you for supporting the show, and thank you for supporting the industry.
Well, it's a privilege, and we owe it to each other, but most of all, the gratitude is to the organizers, both Chad and Josh and everybody at Weir's, because, you got to get up and do it. You got to take that step. Well done is always better than well said, and all we do is reflect what the people who get up and make the initiative, and that's what's here, and that's why we're here.
Karl Fredrickson, Speedway Illustrated. Be sure to check it out.